Welcome to the Dom Sub Devotion podcast. Every episode of Dom Sub Devotion is an authentic reflection of our real life in a loving 24/7 DS marriage. If you crave the passion and intensity of a power exchange dynamic inside of a deeply loving and intimate relationship, you've found the right place. You can always find more from us in the show notes and at infinitedevotion.com. Thank you for listening.
Madelyn, it's good to have you back for take two. The first take we tried on this didn't quite land, so we get to do it all over again, and I can't wait to see what comes forth in this conversation today. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, we got a good, 75-minute practice round, like real podcast pros, where we went in deep, and we got all that stuff out of the way. So now we get to see what's on the other side, which I totally trust and I'm very excited for.
Me too. And anytime we get a chance to chat is always fun, so I'm glad to have
Yeah,
you here.
yeah.
For those of our audience who maybe don't know you, I always like to at least have you introduce yourself and let people know a little bit about who you are and what you're about and what you are bringing forth into the world.
Yeah. So I am an author and a teacher and a podcast host, and I've been doing this entrepreneurship for probably around 14 years. Started quite early. And I specifically support women with energetic capacity in multiple ways. And one of the focuses that I have is around the land of expression, but it's not so much just around expression in the sense of like surface level expression, like express yourself, wear clothing that you like, things of that nature, which it's very much part of that. But there's also like expression in the terms of ancestral healing expression, shadow work expression, darkness and light expression, and being a willing vessel to be able to hold all of that expression, to be a willing vessel that's able to expand, to hold all of you and all of your energy. And when one really learns how to do this, their capacity expands in every way. Their sight, their intuition, how they see things as a woman, how they step into being oracle, how they can really, truly, deeply see their man, how they can bring in more intensity and be able to hold it, which can also look like bringing in more money and more business and just more, because your body is so wide, so capable of holding. And that's what I call expression. That's really what I mean when I say expression, is your body's capacity to be able to hold all of that.
Hold and then move.
Know how to move, know how to channel, know how to circulate, and get incredibly uh, in touch with their system when they're getting leaky, or whenever they're becoming a victim, or when they're contorting their body so that they feel safe. And then they call it, it's not fair, but actually, a lot of times we're kind of doing that. We're contorting our own bodies because it's a safer place to be for a lot of women than actually taking life by the full reins and making choices and decisions that are hard. But like, they're there and they're there for you to make.
Yeah, that's one thing I say to people a lot is you have more choices than you ever want to admit.
Hmm.
Most of the time, people, I think, don't really want to look at some of the choices they have because those choices make themselves uncomfortable, but then they see themselves as being limited into a very narrow window of options. They feel like I
Hmm.
don't have a choice. We always have a choice.
Yeah. Yeah. And particularly for women, I think there's something that can be it's not just overwhelming, it's like frustrating that we have to make choice. I'm tired of making choices. It's like a slightly little um, old patriarchal siphoning that we have bought into, that to be a feminine being, it's a burden to make choices and decisions, or at least there's sometimes a specific point in our life we reach where we're really done. Like it really feels exhausting. And that's a fight that drains our life force so deeply. Drains, 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 drains. And really what I'm interested in is supporting women to have so much life force that decisions feel fluid and they feel clear and they feel their own capacity. It's not even a thing. It's not even a thing to be the one who is guiding your own life and to be able to enact and create expressions that are able to move energy through and free that energy rather than get into this tangle and this dance with decisions and choices that just continue to take you far, far, far down.
Yeah, decision fatigue is real for a lot of women, but I think, at least in the way that I see this and tend to come across it when I'm working with women, is the decision fatigue doesn't come from an inability to make decisions. It tends to come from a lack of connection to their own desire
Hmm.
to really
Yeah.
feel. I think this kind of gets at what you're talking about here is to really feel the true embodied wanting in her own body, like in her body, instead of
Hmm.
trying to tune into it. I think it gets exhausting when she's trying to tune into what does everybody else want or expect, and she's not listening to herself.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And then it's like the nervous system becomes incredibly dense and thick and layered, and it does feel hard. You can ask a woman, like, do you want this or do you want this? Like, on a menu, and it can be like, like almost like a very destabilizing experience for some women, not all. Um, and we've lost the sacred art of instinct, impulse. There's been this process we've had to learn to think things very through and to make the right decision and to do the right thing. And then impulse just starts to disintegrate. And that impulse is also your animal. It's also your primal. It's your protection. It's a lot that ends up going when we start to create more distance between us and the knowing, the moment of knowing.
I lit up when you said that word impulse
Hmm.
because that is exactly the conversation that Dawn and I have been having more and more as she's learning to tune into this for herself. She's unwound so many of these old patterns, and now she's realizing like that impulse is almost always right for her. And then
Mm.
it's everything that happens in the and then after that impulse, like that's where the confusion or the decision fatigue or everything sets in. But the
Hmm.
impulse is almost always
Yeah.
so like not just accurate, but freakishly accurate and all knowing and all seeing. And to me, that's really that is the oracle, the impulse.
Hmm.
Would you agree with that?
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. 100%. It's amazing, and I think a lot of women feel that they hear a man talk about their woman being the oracle. And I think for some women, there's an experience on the outside where they feel that that's not them. And they want to be that, but that's not them. And what I have come to find is that every woman really does have this beautiful access to their oracle, and it is in their impulse. And yes, it does take so much of what I'm talking about with the widening of perception and the ability to be a shape shifter and to be able to move energy well. So there is some continual sharpening of that intuition, but the seed, the ember is in every soul. There is this instinctive knowing. And it's important also to realize that we have so ingrained in us this that's right, that's wrong, as well as the practitioner mindset. The mindset of the practitioner that just always wants to do the practice and do it better and do it correctly and practice, practice, practice and wake up and know. And so we've got this part of our brains that's just been a bit co-opted by the practitioner and the correct way to do things. And then all of course all the stories of just being a woman and doing everything the right woman femininity way of the femininity, which is different from the feminine. Uh, and it covers the impulse and just the idea or the sensation of you just have this knowing and then you act on it feels far for some women, which is why I do a lot of improv in my work, which is a very playful thing, but it supports people in being able to act on instinct in a gamified way, in a totally creative way, but it starts to get them back in touch with their ability to make a choice. In improv, you need to make choices to make a good scene. And so just in this act of like a 3 minute scene of having fun, you start to get back into the ability to make choices. And then when you're done with the scene, you're like, oh, wow, like I have a new reference point for what that feels like when I just call a shot and then the audience laughs and they liked it. And like it's this really beautiful feedback loop that people then can take into their relationships.
It also gets at how play is so
Mhm.
valuable and essential for, like, I think for everybody, but specifically here we're talking to and about women. Right before you and I started recording, Dawn is outside right now doing a workout. And
Mm.
I went outside to just give her a kiss and say, I'll see you in an hour. And she's like, I had a big revelation, because she's been all over up in her head for most of her adult life around exercise and like being really kind of driven by forcefulness and self-hatred and all of this stuff around exercise and food. And she's dissolved so many of those patterns. She said, you know, I'm just going to approach my workouts by going and by just doing what sounds fun. Like I'm going to do whatever feels playful to me. And so right now,
Mhm.
jumping rope and jumping on our rower and like doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that sounds fun. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm like,
Mhm.
that a girl.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what a revolutionary concept that moving your body should be fun or could be fun.
No, it
Yep.
be structured.
Structured and rigid and, no pain, no gain. I mean, that used to be my story. I was like a bodybuilder. I was a competitive bodybuilder and I had eating disorders for 7 years. And it was actually the genesis of all my business. I'm so grateful for all of that because that was the way that I was coping back then with my lack of desire, lack of capacity, and self-hatred, and just hatred towards the feminine, the big wide mystery. The big mystery of the feminine. My body just received so much of that pain point from my upbringing, from my family system, from religion, and I just internalized all of it. And bodybuilding entered my life as a way to feel like I was in control, right? It just like the gaining muscle, the food, consistency, all of that gave me this false sense of control. But what I was really doing was trying to avoid feeling the totally unpredictable tsunami of the feminine that was way, 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 way deep down inside me. And I had been so rigid and structured for most of my life for a lot of good reasons. Um, and that eventually is really what ultimately led me to having such a powerful um, connection with expression. It's like those who've had oppression in regards to how they express their bodies have the capacity for the deepest expression.
Yeah, it's like it's burying what's the most important and the most valuable thing tends to be what we
Mhm.
repress the hardest.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So I want to tie this back to something you mentioned before we started recording. You mentioned this phrase sacred theater. Now
Hmm.
you've mentioned improv in this
Hmm.
conversation. And I would love to hear you share a little bit about this, because what I continue to find is that this idea, a lot of women hear these ideas like the oracle, or in our work, we talk about submission and surrender and deep union. And they hear these ideas and they think, I want to be that. Like, I want to experience that. I want to have that. And then they almost find themselves in this live action role play of a life where they aren't deepening into the embodiment of it and the reality of it, and they're kind of playing on the surface. And so how would you kind of weave together these ideas of sacred theater and improv and play with this, what I've found at least, that the women that I work with a lot of times end up in a pattern of performance and kind of get stuck in the performance. So how do those
Hmm.
kind of weave together? How does a woman find her way out of acting, maybe through acting? I don't know.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
sounds like you might have an interesting take on that.
Yeah. Great question. So I have an event. My signature event is called Unbound, and it's specifically to support women to liberate all facets of their expression. And really is that. We do all sorts of shape shifting. We do sacred theater, enactment, shadow work. It is a intensive, it is not a retreat. It's a boot camp for your body's expression. And one of the things that we do and that I make very clear is that this is your time to actually, let me say it this way. There was one specific practice we did where it was a shape-shifting experience. So a woman would get into the center and the group would basically decide all these different characters they wanted to see her enact. And one woman was like, how is this different? Like, she was very in the mind. She was super, super in the mind. She was just like, how is this different from charades? Like, how do I approach this different from charades? And my answer was, this is charades with heart. Just bring your heart. That's all I want you to do. You can enact, you can act out, you can pretend this is charades. That's totally fine. Just bring your heart. And I think some people, it's just a very like, oh, how do I do this specific thing? I'm just gonna use my body. But the minute you bring heart into it, you can make it personal. And it doesn't need to be something that is so, it doesn't need to not be charades. I think that there is some benefit of fully, deeply going into acting. Make it, let it be fake. Whatever, let it be fake. Don't have to worry so much about being the good practitioner. And then when you're actually having fun, a lot of times people enter trance states. Like you will enter a trance state when you stop thinking about not making it charades and you just be in the practice of it. There's a kind of fluidity and flow, and then your heart is in it, then you're having fun. And now who really cares if this is, at least for me, shapeshifting or charades? You're in your body, you're in your heart. That's my main goal. And then one of the things that I'll also have women do is there's an accumulation. We have like a climactic moment where we have sacred theater. And let's say that there is a woman that wants to embrace her oracle. After doing 3 days of all this oracle stretching work and experiencing different flavors of the feminine, here, there, like really, we go to every facet and we exhaust the body. This is one of the most important things is that in my work, I want to exhaust your body so that there's actually space on the other side. This is a really big key that not many meditators and people understand, that we don't just go straight into being still. First, you do, 50 jumping jacks and push-ups and you exhaust the body so that your body is porous and breathable and able to receive without having to try to find it, find the thought, find the thing. That's what we're doing so often. I'm gonna meditate, I'm gonna meet it. And this is something that cultures have done tens of thousands of years. They have always known that you first exhaust the body and you cross a threshold physically in order to have an energetic capacity expansion to receive. So we exhaust the body, and then by the time we're ready for actual sacred theater, there's so much space in the field. All the kinks have been worked through, all the thoughts have been thought, the body has been properly exhausted. And so then if I give someone a practice, I want them to do, and I do call it a performance. I want you to step on the stage and then enact a burial rite, enact your own burial rite, give yourself your own eulogy, whatever it may be. There's less thinking involved, there's less planning, and then so they are enacting, and oftentimes they are in a trance state. Time goes by really fast. They're not thinking about or even acting or performing, they are being it. Sacred theater, when the container is created well and everything that leads up to it is done with containment, it's a full-on trance state experience. And people are not showing you something, they are enacting. It is a rite of passage. And I did once give my last Unbound, I did give a woman to do ask the oracle was her experience, ask the oracle. And for her, it was an experience where she got to fully embrace her oracle and be witnessed and be seen in it, which can be a really terrifying experience. And that's why it's so powerful, because you can do sacred theater in your bedroom all day long, but it's the nervous system's experience of 30 pairs of eyes on you that actually does the deepest integration. Being witnessed is how you create a reference point for that. So then when they leave, they can go, oh, that's what it feels like when I'm fully being in my oracle. You don't even have to do anything. You don't have to say the right thing. It's not about any of your wisdom. It's about how you were in your body, how you held your body as people witnessed you, how you hold yourself.
Yeah, and it seems like one of the ways that someone might find a path through perfectionism, because
Mhm.
that's where a lot of this stuff gets bound up, right? Is I have to do it perfectly and I'm afraid to be seen as
Yeah.
less than perfect. And that's the black and white and the like all of the different stuff. Perfectionism plays out so intensely in so many women's systems that like, it's hard to be seen. And if you can break through that, I imagine it can be a pretty powerful experience. Like,
Well, for someone, yeah, someone who has the perfectionism, stand up. I want you to be an absolute insane homeless person. A homeless person with Tourette's. I want you to go crazy. I want you to scream I want you to trip over yourself. I want you to be a slob and scratch your crotch. I want you to drool on us. Like, I'll give something specifically that is to go into the polar opposite, and it's always such a beautiful experience to watch a woman who is quite bound up to go a little bit crazy, and also watch her inability to go crazy. I also see people come up, they just literally cannot access. It's terrifying. So we just go an inch in, just like go an inch into your crazy homeless person. Just maybe even centimeter. Can you just stretch your edge a little bit and let us love you in there? So we can modulate. But someone who is in the perfectionism is not going to get a piece on being a radiant goddess. She's going to be, you know, a starving gargoyle or something like that and show us what it looks like when a gargoyle feasts.
you don't have to go straight to go pee in that house plant in the corner. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Though that's a great idea.
you could take that one for next year.
Yeah, great.
Good luck to any house plants at wherever you host this thing.
Yeah.
I think that's it's such a special thing that you do because it's almost like using, and I guess this gets to the shadow work and the way you
Mhm.
approach shadow work is like you're using the very thing that you're the most afraid of, that you where you are the most repressed or in avoidance of as the means through it. So one of the things I'm hearing you say is like, okay, you feel like you're performing a life, let's go perform, right? Let's go right, let's use
Yeah.
that thing
Yeah.
as the means by which we're going to overcome that thing.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Step into it
Yeah.
fully. No more half stepping, no more being in it but complaining about it, no more talking about it, no more strategizing around it. Let's just fucking devour your performance. Let's just so be in let's amplify the performance. How big can you perform? How full bodied can you be in the performance of a lifetime? Go.
And then what's on the other side of that?
Mhm.
Because it's not
Space.
just about the performance, right? It's about
Right.
what that makes available.
Yeah. Yeah. There's you. You're on the other side of it. Like actual you. When all those things get to be fully experienced, fully fleshed out, seen. I mean, the expression ranges from tears to laughter to like, just what like revelations. I remember once, the last one, there was a woman that we did a specific practice and she came back. She was like, I was just looking at myself in the mirror and I saw I am so beautiful. And it was just so beautiful, like just the what is the revelations that are on the other side of fully experiencing. This is just fully experiencing. That's all this is fully experiencing. We don't fully experience much. I had this was happening to me yesterday, actually. I was like, when I'm feeling a little bit like luteal, PMSy, and just I can just feel really just like gremlin. I just call it a gremlin. It's a negative gremlin. It's not a cute gremlin. And yesterday was like my second day of being in that, and I was like, I need to go practice. Like I hadn't been practicing. I've been pushing that off. So I put out my sheepskin and I put on some music and I was just like fully giving a voice to all the raw gremlin gargoyle gurgly. And afterwards, like when I fully went in, I felt so much better. And I just was like, yeah, I have to go into the gremlin or else the gremlin takes me over. Like I have to become fully the gremlin, fully experience the gremlin, or it comes out in these like, anal kind of just tight, annoyed with life, judgmental of other people, just not great, all these not great attributes start to come out unless I fully animate the crazy, fully, and then it's actually fun, and then there's life that's freed on the other side, and then I feel erotic, and then I feel juicy, and I want to have sex, and I just like, oh, life is great, all because I went into that. And I personified it. I gave it a voice. I gave it a body. I gave it a sound. And now I'm happy. It's like a really good fucking expression is.
Well, and it's you have two choices, right? That energy is there. It's just showing up as the tension, as the gremlin, as the luteal, as whatever.
Yeah.
So you're either going to try to basically just fucking push it down until it goes
Hmm.
away, or you're going to let it move in whatever way it needs to move. But one way is freedom, and the other way is just carrying it around so it can come back up later.
Hmm. Yeah, it's weighted and to it like it distracts, it um you're spending so much life force that most people are not aware of tightening around the experience. It's like all this life force in your place of fire just starts to tighten in the mind. It coils around the heart, it coils around the womb. So all that life force that could be circulating through your system starts to spend its job becomes to coil around whatever experience you're having. And the minute you fully go into it, you explore it, you express it, all that life force is free flowing now. Free flow to flow through your system or also out when you want to direct it. If you want to send it somewhere.
Well, and I imagine, Ayurveda would say that this kind of tension is one of the sources of, and maybe the main source of disease
Hmm.
and like the lack of abundance of health in our bodies.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
has consequences, not doing what you're talking about here. It has physical consequences,
Hmm.
not just emotional ones.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
What's the role in your mind that shadow work plays in this? Like how does the whole idea and concept of shadow work play into the
Hmm.
whole concept of kind of freeing the body of the tension
Hmm.
of the mind?
Yeah. So this is my perspective on shadow work. One, I don't think that shadow work is ever something, well, let me first say it this way. The shadow is something that oftentimes gets in the way of love. It's the thing, it's the energetic that keeps you separate, keeps you from your ability to love. Shadow work or your shadow, just speaking to anyone that's new to this, your shadow is not I don't believe in myself enough. Or your shadow is not, I don't love myself enough. I get in the way of loving myself. That's not quite the shadow. I want you to go darker. I want you to go deeper. I want you to go to the place that your ego is probably protecting you from going into. It's like, what's the gnarly thing you do? So an example that I'll use is I had, okay, I had a client who experienced a very kind of push-pull energy from her mother, uh, with her mother had different kind of disorders, personality and mental disorders. And this push-pull energy that she received from her mother really scared her as she grew up, right? So, and this is probably not just her mom, but her mom's mom or her dad, or it just goes beyond. But this energy taught this girl very early on that love feels like a very dangerous experience, push and pull. I get it, and then I no longer deserve it. And then I get it, and I no longer deserve it. that experience of her to receive that from her mom created within herself a push-pull dynamic with love. Not necessarily because it's in her DNA and in her body, and now she has personality disorders, but that's the effect of being raised by somebody with that. So she has her own version and her own flavor, but in her body, her experiences, love comes and love goes. So she meets somebody wonderful, they fall in love. And then at the moment when that man's stuff comes up, what she's feeling is your stuff's coming up. That means I'm no longer safe in this experience of love. So I'm going to go. So then she starts to create this I'm here, I'm no longer here experience for him. Yeah. And so this energetic continues to pass through. So in this case,
Becomes the thing
push
she's afraid of.
what
She becomes the very thing that she's afraid of.
she becomes, and it's hard to see it. It's hard for her to see it because she's so stuck in the story that my mom's this way and my mom did this to me, so I'm afraid of love. So there's a kind of uh, I mean, you can totally adopt a victim experience. That is a victim experience. You're not a victim though, and you don't stay there. And the experience of being raised by someone who is, let's say, narcissistic in that way, can actually create the one who experienced it to be narcissistic now because they're only thinking about protecting themselves and the capacity is not wide to see the whole dynamic at play. Oh, my mom was that way. It terrifies me. Now I'm self-absorbed as a method to protect myself. We're so we're just working so hard to protect ourselves from seeing ourselves in those kinds of negative lights. And my perspective on shadow work is that we really need to start to create more objective relationships so that we're not so caught up in I'm a shit person if I'm being narcissistic at all. Like, or I'm, being self-absorbed. Can we just objectively be like, oh, I'm doing that thing that I blame my mom for doing. Ouch. Whoa, that hurts. It's the last thing that I want to do or be. And what if my mom is actually not so bad? And what if my mom, oh, if I'm doing this, that means that somehow, some way, she picked that up from somewhere. And the person that she learned that, and you can start to create this more lighter relationship with shadows that aren't so personal. So you can begin to heal your relationship with yourself and how you've been moving with that shadow and the person you maybe have come to despise and blame your entire life on, and you realize it's actually not their fault. So the shadows become entities. They are beings that have traveled from person to person to person to person in their own mysterious way, waiting for someone to be able to finally feel it, flesh it out, fully experience it, enter sacred theater.
It gives you compassion. I know one thing that for me more than anything, my your client's mom could have been my mom. That push pull give take, and as I've worked to integrate my own shadow and my own fear and my own like all of these places where I was all bound up, I really
Mhm.
have come to a place where I can have more compassion for her in being
Yeah.
able to see like, oh yeah, if I was acting in all the ways that I was acting and living all the ways I was living, not because she did it to me or because anyone else did it to me, but because I learned that as a survival mechanism, which, okay, go
Mhm.
me, I figured out how to survive. That is
Yeah.
a really important skill. And
Mhm.
that's really not suiting me anymore. Like, that's not giving me the abundant life I want to live.
Yeah.
So then from that place, I can now look and go, oh, maybe that's the same shit she went through. And then I can start to
Mhm.
look, oh yeah, I knew my grandma and grandpa and my aunts and uncles, her parents and brothers and sisters. And oh shit, yeah, she had it really rough too. No wonder. And you can empathize for real in my experience. You can empathize for real with someone else to the extent that you can empathize with and have compassion for yourself.
Mhm. Yeah. Yes, that is so true. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I think we can start looking deeper at, you kind of mentioned this becoming the shadow, right? You have to really fully express it. And that does almost act as the energetic dead end sign for that energy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah, and it is, yeah, it's the creator of that compassion. It's the creator of I think the most fruitful compassion that we're looking for is not going to come from trying to be compassionate by thinking about compassion and like be compassionate, be compassionate. At least for me, that does not work. Affirmations in that way have never worked for me, or just trying to like, the therapeutic sense of turning something over. What has been to put myself, everything I know about me, Madeline, like consciously to the side. I fully release everything and anything that encompasses Madeline Victoria Moon, feeling that, feeling my essence leave, like, right. And this is in a sacred container, feeling everything that is me leave, and then fully summoning the energetic or entity of dagger throwing ice queen. And through a period of shape shifting, like literally feeling my body start to hold daggers, feeling my body turn into ice, cold, like tasting the texture of cold, feeling the jagged edges of my jaw in anger and my teeth turning into fangs, and feeling like fire inside of the ice that's ready to shoot, allowing all of that to be summoned. And remember, Madeline's not here. I'm just a vessel. So there's no morale getting in the way from me fully feeling this. And then for 2 minutes, enacting whatever it is that Ice Queen would. Maybe it's an experience of saying the meanest things in the entire world and using my daggers and like directing that energy out and feeling it so fully for a few minutes, and then in some kind of ritualistic fashion releasing that entity, saying thank you, saying I let you go, summoning everything back in that is you fully, totally, and completely, and then bookending the experience. So there's a way to do it so that you can do it safely. And that, like, really deeply going in that way is what's created the compassion, because I've been able to feel something that is like really create a relationship with, oh, I'm carrying around that. That's gnarly. Like, whoa, I've been carrying that around, and like that carries itself around. That's so that what that must be like to be the dagger throwing ice queen, like that energetic, that entity, that being going around hungry, looking for love, looking for a home. Like, what, how sad it must be that there is that entity out there just searching, searching, searching. And if I get to free it just a little bit more, if I get to give it a place, a vessel that says, I'm here for you, I'm going to experience you so you can live fully and finally be able to enact in a way that you've been hungry, I believe that it starts to disintegrate. I believe that it starts to become thinner and thinner and thinner the more that we really know. But I mean, gnosis, like wisdom of the heart, not know in the head, but the gnosis of the body.
so so beautifully said. I couldn't even add to it if I wanted to. One of the things that I think a lot of people feel, and I know I've experienced this a lot in Dawn, is there is a very heavy feeling sometimes after or in the process of seeing these ways that you may have been going through your life, or these, in your language, entities you've been carrying with you, and realizing like that is something that's been affecting me. It's been affecting my relationships. It's a pattern that's been affecting everything about my life, and I didn't even know it was there.
Mhm.
And then there's this grief that
Yeah.
tends to come through. And
Hmm.
could you talk a little bit about the experience of grief as a part of the healing process?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I've had some eras over the past couple years where I've gotten to experience grief. I mean, I shared with you, I just lost my little, not even 2-year-old uh, puppy. And that was a new experience for me of like being in grief from a loved one. I've been very blessed to not have people close to me that have passed. So I've had that kind of grief. I've had grief of relationships ending, like really intense ones, and being able to move through that. And I think that I mean, there's probably so much one could say on grief, but I've had the experience of harsh grief and soft grief that have really come clear for me in these experiences. And the harsh grief is like the thrashing around, the tightening, but it's still happening, and the tears are a bit violent, and there is the blame, both self and both directed outwards, and trying to rationalize the irrational. And it's really quite frenetic and it's really intense. And I've had harsh grief. I've had quite a bit of harsh grief of moving through because my body didn't have the capacity to be able to be fully experiencing the loss. And I wanted to make reason out of it, really trying to make reason. And I wonder if those who have more of the rigid archetype of the processing and putting things in their place, and there's a right way and the wrong way, I think they might have longer periods of that kind of harsh grief, which I think it's important. I think you want to exhaust yourself. And in harsh grief, you exhaust yourself. And I think it leads to soft grief, which is this period of deep, deep, deep acceptance. And there's a softness and a tenderizing. And if we're looking at things like shadow, and we're looking at things like acknowledging and seeing patterns that we have adopted from our families, soft grief allows us space to create that compassion. And it actually feels good. Like when you really, really, really allow yourself to melt into it, to surrender to it, it actually feels pleasurable in a way. And we don't have to only have, um, toggling pleasure with gnarly experiences is one of the best things that we can do to reprogram our system around safety. We can do somatic work, we can do nervous system work, and also to be able to access just a little bit of pleasure that you can feel in your system around something like grief starts to teach you that you're safe. You're safe to let go, you're safe to grieve, you're safe to meet yourself in compassionate ways when you're not, yeah, when the walls are completely down and there's no faking it. There's no way around. Sometimes grief just comes in like this beautiful storm and like puts everything into perspective, including, again, looking at like shadows. It puts into perspective, like, you're okay. You're okay. Like, it's okay if you've got gnarly bits. For some, it's just the worst news in the entire world. And grief can just help doula us into being like, oh, it's actually okay. It's fine. You don't have to be perfect. You're not supposed to be. You never will be. So stop trying.
Well, and you're punishing yourself by continuing to
Mhm.
pursue the impossible.
Yeah.
And there's something really special that I heard Peter Crone say one time around grief and around the idea of not attaching to the story of loss, but feeling
Mm-hmm.
the real pain of what you're experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
And his story is where he talks about his, like, both of his parents passed away. But the
Mm-hmm.
story that he told himself was that I lost my parents. And then he kind of became this like the fear of loss set in its place. And he started then experiencing the manifestation of losing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like the real powerful moment in that is like, not just letting go, but letting yourself be with the pain,
Mm-hmm.
not trying to let go, like as okay, I need to get rid of this, but really just letting yourself be with it so that it doesn't morph into story and doesn't morph into something, its own entity, back to that concept.
Yes. Yeah. When I lost Jack, Not even a couple weeks ago. Um, One of the things I pretty quickly anchored into, like maybe the third day, was this is not personal. Like really anchored into like, and it supported me. I mean, it was a very deep, I mean, it's been a very deep couple of weeks of like every day it's a new kind of experience of how I'm relating to death. But one of the things that I anchored into was like, this is not actually personal. This feels like a massive attack on me. This feels like a massive attack on Jack. This feels like a massive attack on, um, my little family. And yeah, I realized like, wow, this is just a part of all of it, and Jack is just an example of a being that's going first, and then it's going to be another, and then it's going to be, this is everybody. And something about that alleviated the story before it got developed or built. And I was really just like being with the non-personal nature of death and how that's a being, that's an entity, and that's a being. And really like, going through the massive amounts of grief and the layers and the sorrow, and also anchoring into this part of life that is a threshold everyone must pass, and it's not about me. And I actually started to put more attention on Jack himself and just like Jack's journey and Jack's life and like what he signed up for. And maybe this is exactly what he signed up for, and I'm making it all about myself. And how can I instead honor him and his journey and his path and what he's decided to do in this particular life until the next one.
I've been where you are. It's been a while, but I lost a 5-year-old blue Chinese Shar named Barkley, who I called Woof.
Mm.
He was way too young and the best dog I ever had, and so I feel you. I I feel you and what that's like. 15 years later, and it still brings tears to my eyes. So
Yeah. Nothing like them. There's nothing like them. Yeah, they're angels.
yeah. So one of the things that I respect so much about you, Madeline, is you titled your book Artist of Love.
Mm.
For everybody who hasn't read it, go buy Madeline's book. It's called Artist of Love. You can get it anywhere books are sold. It's brilliant, but you do such a beautiful job of bringing your whole self and your experience of the moment into how you're living your life. Like
Mm.
that authenticity of expressing the truth of where you are in the moment. Even though sometimes I know the sharing of it comes later, but I know you, like in the moments you're living that mission of making art out of your pain. You're making art out of your life.
Mhm.
And like I see you in that, and I really want to honor that and tell you that I value that you are what you are putting into the world and how you are bringing yourself into the world.
Mm.
And I know that whatever this is with Jack is probably a part of that overall story.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I feel that. Yeah. Thank you. It's just, he came in such an important time in my life, and he doulaed me into a new chapter pretty amazingly in the timing. Like it just feels like it wasn't an accident. Like entire time from the day I got him to the day he left, it was just wild. And yeah, I mean, his everything about Jack will live on fully, completely through art, through his little spirit of art, and everything he's taught me about death and everything he's taught me about life. What a little messenger of depth and his joy. So thank you for seeing me. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. Is there anything else that you, around that whole idea of making art with your life, making art with your pain, that you would like people to hear or know in what that can really bring in life?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I believe we are given experiences in our life that feel like drama, the stories that we end up creating. It's like this always happens to me. On a shadow sense, this happens to me, or why does this always happen to me? But when you have the perspective of being an artist of love, all of those experiences mark significant moments in your life that are not your drama, but your dharma. And these moments are when you take them and turn them inside out and create from them, they lead you to who you are meant to be. All of my capacity, my perspectives on life, my ability to move forward when life gets crunchy, all of that has come from the practice of making art out of life's experiences. If I didn't make art out of my childhood, I would not be wide. If I did not make art out of all my weird dating experiences that left me feeling completely gaslit and confused, I would not be a comedian. If I did not make art out of, my last relationship and just the intensity and the beauty and also the incredible challenge of it, I wouldn't be a writer. All of these experiences have given me everything of who I am. It's contributed not just in the sense of like, I am who I am today because of that, but because of what I did with it, how I milked it. And my encouragement to everyone is to be a milker of your experiences, to see your drama and the things that happen as only the starting point of something beautiful, of a whole series you can create, of a screenplay you can write, of a book you can create, of the type of family or relationship you want, of a ritual you will build. And it doesn't stop because life doesn't stop. And so you continuously just get new experiences that either have the power to fuck you up and break you or create um, turn you into the artist that you're really meant to be. And when I say that, I mean the alchemist, the magician, somebody who knows how to work with energy. It's so much deeper than making something. It is turning something inside out and building an entirely new way to see, to live, or to relate to something that gives you all the power back, all the life force back, all the juice back. And to me as a woman, like that's what turns me on the most. That's what makes me feel alive.
And that's what it's all about, right? We're here to live.
Hmm.
That
Yes.
dharma is what you're here to live for.
Yes. Yes. It's taking you to who you're meant to become.
And you mentioned comedian. So I have to give everybody who's listening still at this point of the podcast, I have to tell you, if you haven't done it yet, go to Madelyn's Instagram and watch her reels because she is a comedian and you will laugh off. I promise you, you will laugh your ass off and you'll see what she's talking about here. This is how Dawn and I originally came across your work years ago, was one of your reels that came up for us on Instagram made us laugh our ass off. And I can't even tell you which one it was. And we're like, I like her. She's funny. Like, oh, there's more to it. Cool. That's what we do too in our business is we have the hook, the thing that draws people in and they go, oh, there's depth there. Right. Like,
Hmm.
and that's what I see you doing with your comedy and with the way that you make what you make and how you create. So
Oh,
for
thank
everybody, if you
you.
haven't been to Madelyn's Instagram, go there, blow a half an hour of your scrolling time laughing at all of the silliness.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I go through phases. Sometimes I'm feeling really funny and I'm just like popping out, and sometimes it's like, well, every once in a while something funny will come to me. But I do enjoy being able to have range on my feed. That feels like really important to have range, and I love that you love it.
You do a great job of it. Where can
Thank
people
you.
find you? What is that Instagram where people can go, and how else can
Oh.
people track down Madelyn and more of your work?
Yes, so my Instagram is Madelyn Moon, Madelyn Moon. My website is Maddie Moon with a Y, Maddy. And I have a free three-part series called The Unfuckwithable Artist, which is a lot of what we're talking about today with drama to dharma, how to create art out of life's experiences to become truly unfuckwithable. No one can fuck with you, and you're the alchemist creating art out of everything that's happening. So I'll make sure that I include a link for that as well if anyone wants to do that three-part class.
It'll be right down underneath us here.
Yay! Amazing.
Thanks again for coming back for take 2, and I really do
Mhm.
appreciate you and value everything that you're doing. Thanks for being here.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was, dare I say, even better than the first one. So glad, so glad we did this again.